Welcome to the INSZN College Football Show. We are talking Week 15, Conference Championship Week. I am Braxton Wilkes, joined as always with INSZN co-founder Christian Berry. I think let's get right into it. Obviously, first thing on everyone's mind, we've gotten into some debates, I'm sure, on X. I'm sure anyone watching this that's a college football savant like we are, a nerd like we are, has gotten into some debates, whether it's family around the Thanksgiving table or just on X and social media this week about the college football playoff rankings. So I want to get right into it, bring that up. Christian, kind of your thoughts. I know the kind of big questions. Alabama looks like jumped Notre Dame with I guess, a 7-point win against Auburn. BYU still at 11 on the outside looking in, just with the kind of rules, the five top conference champions getting in. And Miami on the outside looking in. Texas probably does not have a way to get in at this point. So what were your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of said it best. I mean, I think that the fact that BYU's 11 just solidifies that, they have to win and they're in against Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship this weekend. But was also a little surprised to see Bama jump Notre Dame. I mean, I personally don't think Notre Dame has the resume to actually get in the college football playoffs. If you actually look at, the blind resume head to head versus, BYU, even Miami. But I think it's kind of what we expected to see. I mean, one thing came to mind when I saw, obviously with the Lane Kiffin drama that happened this past week. I mean, you saw kind of a similar thing happen with Florida State, obviously when they lost their quarterback, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and
Yeah,
they got left out.
2023. Yeah.
Exactly. I was honestly expected to see maybe Ole Miss move a few spots down just from that standpoint. But, I honestly think it's good to see that they didn't, just from the standpoint of the committees looking at, the body of work this entire year as opposed to, one decision that happens at the end of the season and not showing how it'll affect the team going into the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, there's not much of a change from last week from a high level standpoint. I agree. Texas is on the outside looking in. I know Vanderbilt's been all over Twitter saying, can we get one more game against Miami and Hawaii, because apparently you can play a game in Hawaii that doesn't count, but just kind of to pad their resume a little bit more. But I think you're largely seeing the playoffs being set here with kind of the largest hinge on this entire thing is the BYU Texas Tech game.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's looks like the committee's one, I think, hoping that Tech beats BYU. It seems like they, for some reason, don't want BYU in that. Just with the ranking, I mean, it's funny. You kind of look down, and I'll pull up the in-season AQR in a second to just show blind resumes who has the best resume as of Week 15. But you kind of look, it's Ohio State 12-0, Indiana 12-0. Then you have the one-loss teams: Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Obviously dropped from 3 to 7, and then there's the two-loss teams. But all of a sudden, at 11, the other one-loss team is there at BYU. Wanted to kind of show real quick the kind of resumes. These are blind resume, basically our Adjusted-Quadrant Resume rankings. We look at how each team has done against quadrants. Top 25. It kind of is based on game type, game location, whether it's conference, non-conference, home, away, neutral site, and then the team they're playing and how they've done. And they get points for that, points for kind of margin of victory against those quadrants. So, when you're looking at just pure resume, there's kind of 5 and 6 are really close, BYU and Oregon, but they're both right there. And kind of, as you said, Ole Miss is right after that. And I was surprised to see, you lose Lane Kiffin, potentially lose your offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss, although Lane Kiffin really is also an offensive coordinator for them. I would argue that's bigger than Florida State losing their quarterback back in 2023, especially when, the back then, if you remember, the third string quarterback was playing in the ACC championship game. They said, well, he didn't look very good. But the backup, the second string, who was going to play in the playoff, he had a concussion, was out for the ACC championship, would have been back for the playoffs. So I was surprised that Ole Miss didn't drop. And I wanted to do one thing real quick. this was just a blind resume of two teams. I think it's interesting. So Team A, number 6 strength of record, 4 wins against the composite top 40. That's kind of one of ESPN's analytics that shows the top 40 teams talent-wise. Take that with a grain of salt, just because some of that has to do with a lot of that has to do with recruiting rankings and portal rankings and things like that. I think Florida's in the top 40 of that, but so take that with a grain of salt. 5 wins against teams that are 7-5 or better, so teams with winning records, and then 2-1 against the teams that are currently in the CFP top 25. The other Team B, number 7 strength of record, 3 wins against composite top 40, 2 wins against teams that are better than 7-5, so teams with winning records, and then 2-1 against the CFP top 25. So out of those two teams, Team A should go to the playoff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so.
Yeah, so that Team A is BYU, Team B is Ole Miss. So that's kind of the weird thing about the treatment of BYU so far is man, they at 11, they're on the outside looking in based on the current rules. They have to win against Tech to go. And right now they're sitting at 11-1 thinking, the last 2 years they've gone 20-3 in the regular season, 10-2 last year and 11-1 this year. And there's a chance that the CFP committee doesn't put them in either of those years. So yeah, that's kind of our recap of that. I think it's crazy that BYU has to win this game to get in. I think this really shouldn't, although it's another data point, shouldn't hurt teams unless, you just get run out of the building in a conference championship game. But, I'd obviously much rather be Oklahoma or I guess Ole Miss sitting there saying, or Texas A&M saying, I'm in the college football playoff. I don't have to play this week. This is great, than any of the teams that we're about to talk about. Yeah. But that is our kind of college football playoff recap for week 15. This is obviously the INSZN College Football Show. Comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts, or if we're just if you don't think we're smart, let us know. I don't know. I want to get right into it. We're going to start talking with Christian, have him look at the in-season AI, what it's telling us, some of the AI-derived insights we're getting, and all of the advanced analytics that are behind these games. First game I want to talk about is Friday night. Winner of this, just based on the rankings, is going to the college football playoff. North Texas against Tulane. Right now the spread's 2.5 in favor of North Texas, and the over-under is 67.5. So Christian, I want you to kind of take it away if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now it's North Texas by 2.5. Our in-season AI largely agrees with that. It's for what all intents and purposes very much a toss-up game. We have North Texas winning 54% of the time, which really does kind of equate to that 2.5-point spread. And then our pick conviction is a toss-up, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game to pick. Toss-up for us means we have a historical accuracy of around 70% in terms of correctly predicting this outcome. So it's not something I would necessarily bet right away and say, hey, the in-season AI guys said to take North Texas here. This is very much in that toss-up category for us as well. I think it's going to be an exciting game. Just kind of quickly looking at where we are between these two teams. North Texas is actually the number 1 ranked SP plus offense in the country, led by Drew Mestemaker. And I think, a lot of people see that and are like, well, yeah, of course they play in the American Athletic, but from an offensive standpoint, they're extremely high powered, and kind of their Achilles heel this season has been their defense. They've been able to put up a lot of points, but they also have allowed a lot of points. And obviously in 10 out of 11 games, they've been able to score more. That's kind of the one thing I'm looking at this week is North Texas's defense going to be able to stop Tulane's offense? I mean, that's kind of a question mark that we have kind of going into it right now. Tulane also has a pretty formidable offense at 32 in SP plus offense, but similarly 78 in their defensive rankings. So kind of what I'm seeing from a metric and statistical standpoint is this going to be a very high scoring game. I think both teams are going to be able to put up a lot of points. Jake Retzlaff out of Tulane has also had a very formidable year as well. So I'm happy to jump into anything more, offensive.
Yeah.
You want to look at players, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at the advanced analytics that in-season provides, kind of going down to the headline grades. I mean, you kind of put it. I'm looking at North Texas right now. A plus pass offense, A plus run offense. Caleb Hawkins, Drew Mestamaker, pass routes, A run block, A minus pass block. So really, the game is going to come down to kind of the Achilles heel of North Texas. Although when you're 11-1, you don't have many Achilles heels, but it's really that defense and kind of that defense. The thing that always sticks out is that 15th percentile or less, that F on pass rush defense.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the question to me: is Tulane going to be able to, block a 15th percentile pass rush, or is North Texas going to be able to come up for a big game and get at Jake Retzlaff and be able to stop and slow down that Tulane offense? Because I think we've seen at times, really in their two losses that pass rushes and really just getting at Jake Retzlaff has slowed down that offense and harmed their ability to be efficient. But North Texas does not do that very well. And I think that's why the over under on this game is set at 67.5. I mean, there are some games, just looking at North Texas's schedule and everything, there are some games that North Texas almost does that on their own. So I think this game's going way over if I had to guess. But
yeah, and I think one of the challenges, especially when if you're looking at North Texas's defense, when they have an F in pass rush and an A in coverage defense, kind of one of the challenges you have to do if you're looking at this game from an objective level, but also if you're the defensive coordinator, when you're facing a solid, probably one of the better quarterbacks they've faced this entire year, and Jake Retzlaff, is, he's going to be able to sit in the pocket for a while. So he's going to be able to make that second and third option look. He has a lot of his game happens in that medium range of the field, so the 10 to 20 yard plays. So, you can kind of take away a little bit of the deep ball, coverage that you have to do and move. You can move your safeties or corners up a little bit. So I think that's going to be one of the interesting things is, how does Tulane actually move the ball against North Texas? I think that, they can rely on either their ground game or, they can kind of stick to where their bread and butter has been all season, which is that kind of short to medium pass range and just pretty consistently moving the ball down the field. So that's kind of the one question mark I have is, when you have a coverage defense is as good as North Texas, but you don't have a pass rush defense, when you face a good quarterback, what does that look like?
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's they've faced, North Texas has faced some good quarterbacks. USF always comes to mind. UTSA, Owen McCown has had some really good games, almost perfect games throughout the year. And the American really is the kind of fourth or fifth best conference. You can argue with the ACC if you want. And we won't talk about the game, but if Duke beats Virginia, then there might be the American might be the fourth best conference this year, and there might be the James Madison Sun Belt going to the playoff. But we won't talk about that. That's another tangent. But I think this game is going to come down to kind of exactly what you talked about, being able to, if North Texas can get to Jake Retzlaff, slow him down, cover up some of the pass lanes, and then put some pressure on him, they'll win this game. If they can't, and it becomes a shootout, I like Tulane's defense against North Texas offense as good as it is, more than I like North Texas's defense against Tulane's offense if they can't get to Jake Retzlaff. So that's kind of where I'm at. One thing I will say, I know you talked about in-season AI. For those that don't follow us on X, TikTok, and Instagram, each week we post 5. This week it might not be 5, but the 5 best high conviction picks. Last week, all 5 hit. That's happened a couple times this year. But along with that, they were all covering the spread as well. So the in-season insiders that bet kind of a parlay on all 5 of those picks to cover the spread, $100 bet. I think they made $2,400 that they did that. So profit, $2,400 profit. So definitely check it out. The machine learning model that in-season AI gets better and better every week. It'll help with transfer portal recommendations for teams, other things like that. So definitely check it out. You can do all of that at INSZN.co. As always, go over there, check it out, and then comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Next game I want to go over to is you kind of talked about it initially, but the biggest game, the game with the most playoff implication, and actually the game with the biggest crowd. I don't know if you saw, but this game will be sold out at Jerry World. But BYU against Texas Tech. The spread right now is 12.5 in favor of Tech, and the over/under is 49.5. Like you said, big playoff implications. It seems like the committee says that BYU has to make it, has to win this game to make the playoff. So let's see what in-season AI and the advanced analytics are telling us.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of what we consider a lopsided matchup, which I'm a little bit surprised about. Right now, the line is Texas Tech 12.5. Our in-season AI is predicting that Texas Tech wins this 92% of the time, and it's considered a lock in our pick conviction. What lock means is we have historical accuracy of around 92 to 94% on correctly predicting the outcome here. So, for all intents and purposes, this looks like another Texas Tech win. I know they faced each other a couple weeks ago, and, Tech won by 2.5 touchdowns, basically. Maybe more. I can't remember exactly the number. But
by 22.
Yeah, 22, so 3 touchdowns in that sense. So, yeah, I think one of the challenges you face is back-to-back wins. I was listening to College Game Day this past week, and one of the biggest challenges is teams beating the same team twice, especially when they face each other in the regular season and the conference championship. You remember all those Alabama LSU games, kind of early 2010s, when they would always face each other regular season. The final game would be like 3-6, and then the conference championship game.
And LSU isn't passing the 50-yard line and all that stuff. Yeah.
So I think there is a little bit of, you have to understand the psychology behind this game a little bit as well. That this, for Texas Tech, they've already won once. BYU has everything to prove in this game. Texas Tech could lose this game and still make it in. For BYU, this is their entire season. So this is kind of something that, scares me a little bit in terms of, if we just look at it from a metric standpoint and just looking at it from, the basic analytics of this game, this is a Texas Tech win. But as you know, there's that kind of added layer of psychology that both the players, the teams have. And then obviously playing in Jerry World, anything can happen. But Texas Tech, just overall throughout the year, one of the best teams in the country. They're ranked 3rd in SP Plus offense and 4th in SP Plus defense. Overall, kind of one of the most complete teams you'll see this year. I think the only team that I can really think of that, even based on the eye test, that has been better is Ohio State. In terms of completeness on both sides of the field. And they're going against a BYU team that kind of surprises me a little bit in terms of where they're ranked. They're 22nd in offensive SP Plus rankings and 19th in defense. For an 11-1 team, I would kind of expect those to be a little bit higher. But if you look back at kind of their games that they've won this year, they've been closer matchups, obviously, than Tech has. Tech's defense has been able to be pretty stout against the Big 12 all year. So I guess that's where you're getting a little bit of that deviation. But look, Bear Bachmeier, freshman quarterback, playing incredibly this year. I'm really surprised he's actually not in the top 5 finalists for the freshman of the year. I think that's a little bit, questionable. But he's been playing well this year. I think this is going to obviously be his biggest test. But Baron Morton has been, just really great this year. Super consistent across both sides of the field. Cameron Dickey's been a great running back for Tech as well. So they have that kind of 1-2 punch where they're able to, change their schema based on what they're seeing from the defense and kind of run that pretty seamlessly, and contain drives and make them consistent ball movements.
Yeah, exactly. And Tech's, just going through the headline grades, they're all either the best team in the nation in certain categories or top 5, 10 percentile. And basically every headline grade that Tech has, they are a incredibly complete team. The kind of few things that I want to add is, one, Tech, and it's not luck. When we say turnover luck, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like pure luck or anything. I mean, Jacob Rodriguez is probably the best defensive player in the country, best linebacker in the country, and just is a turnover machine. Takes the ball away like crazy. But Tech also has kind of that turnover luck stat that has really gone in their favor this year. They turn the ball over. I mean, they get turnovers, create turnovers, but they don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
That happened in the first matchup between BYU and Tech, and so that's going to be one of the keys is who wins that turnover battle. The other kind of few things I wanted to point out: one, BYU didn't have their kind of starting running back at full health, LJ Martin, in that first matchup. Two, it was a home game for Tech. And three, kind of the added drama this week has been whether Kalani Sitake was going to take that Penn State job, and he didn't. And so, kind of you pointed it out, BYU has everything to gain from this game, everything to lose from this game. Apparently, they kept their head coach, have kind of everyone back at full health. It seems like, or the vast majority. And then it's kind of a neutral site game, although I'm sure there will be a lot of Tech fans there. It's a sold out crowd at Jerry World, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of BYU Coug fans as well. So I'm excited to watch this. The 12.5 is kind of surprising to me because Tech obviously is a great, especially analytically, like a great team, but just with the added drama and everything, and what BYU needs to do to apparently get into the college football playoff based on, the committee's most recent rankings, I think it's probably a closer game than that. And it also kind of, as you said, the machine learning model in INSZN AI is getting better and better. So it kind of scares me that this is saying this is a lock.
Yeah, and I think one final thing I wanted to pull up. So I pulled up the game that they played. I think it was week 13 when they previously matched up. And I think kind of the statistic that screams out to me as being the oh my gosh, this is kind of weird, is that BYU only had 3 scoring opportunities that entire game. And scoring opportunities are when a team is able to get the ball past the 40-yard line of the opponent. So in theory, you could probably kick a long field goal, or you're driving the ball down. Whereas Texas Tech had 9. Their average start on their field position for Tech was their own 41, whereas BYU's was their own 23. So I think something like that is kind of what the model itself is looking like, where it's like BYU starting behind the 8 ball on every drive and unable to consistently move the ball down the field, whereas Tech had 9 scoring opportunities in that game and only finished with 29 points. But if you kind of extrapolate that out a little bit, this could have been a much more, lopsided game had things gone one way or the other. So I think that's kind of the one statistic I look at where I'm like, I see why the model is seeing this as a lopsided game, just based on the metrics of their past matchup and kind of how they've been going on, all season. But that's kind of the one thing I wanted to point out.
Yeah, I agree. So it'll be a fun game, interesting game to watch. BYU's defense, I think the reason that there was only 7 scoring opportunities, but only 29 total points for Tech, is BYU's defense. And they have that kind of bend, don't break defense that you could see Tech drive throughout that whole game, even when they got the ball in short yardage. Tech could not put the ball in the end zone very often. And so that if it becomes just a defense on defense battle, it could be a very close game.
Yeah.
But if teams start turning the ball over, if Tech is continuing to force turnovers, kind of, I think INSZN AI, the analytics show the outcome of that game pretty well. Yeah. So that turnover battle is going to be key for that. But anyway, BYU fans, Tech fans, Big 12 fans, college football fans, comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Give us your thoughts on this game. Your thoughts on BYU's ranking in the college football playoff by the committee. We talked about it earlier, but the blind resumes and INSZN's AQR rankings. Anything you want to talk about, let us know. Check us out on X, Instagram, TikTok, and then as always, become an INSZN insider at inszn.co to have access to all of this. Next game I want to go to out of the SEC, Georgia against Alabama, kind of another rematch from earlier in the season. Alabama went to Georgia, beat them, but the spread on this game is 2.5 in favor of Georgia. It's moved a little bit, but the over-under is 47.5. So I kind of want to get right into this. Seems like both teams, just where they're currently ranked, are already in the playoff. I kind of have nothing to gain from this except maybe a first-round bye. if you're Georgia or even maybe Alabama. But want to get your thoughts on this, see what in-season AI is telling us. Before we first start talking, I want to remind people, we talked about it previously, but in-season AI has a few weeks, the top 5 highest conviction picks that we post on X, Instagram, or TikTok have, all been correct. Not always, but last weekend was one of the weeks all 5 were correct. In-season AI is getting better and better. It's learning more and more. And last week, not only were they all correct, they all 5 of the highest conviction picks covered the spread as well. So people, in-season insiders that bet $100 on a kind of 5-leg parlay for all 5 teams to cover the spread made $2,400. And so as more and more data comes in, it's getting better and better. But just wanted to briefly highlight that.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and break into this game. So right now, in-season AI is predicting that Georgia wins this game 67% of the time against Alabama 33. As you said, the spread's 2.5 right now in favor of Georgia. To be completely honest, when we see a win percent or a prediction of 67%, we're typically looking at something in kind of that 7 to 10 point spread range. So that's kind of the first thing that rings alarm bells for me, which is, Georgia might win this game by a little bit more than what the market makers are suggesting. But if you look at the pick conviction, it's low. Low does not mean bad. It just means about historically accurate about 75% of the time. So this is not necessarily something I would say, Georgia's a lock in winning this game. But there is a little bit of a deviation between what we're seeing in terms of the spread nationally and what we're predicting internally. If we just quickly break into the high level, statistics of this game, this is, 2 solid defenses going against 2 solid offenses. Kind of expecting to see something in that lower score range. Nonetheless, right now Georgia's 13 in SP plus, 8 in SP plus defense. Alabama's 19th in SP plus offense and 6th in SP plus defense. I don't have a ton to say high level about this game. I think that this is going to be your typical SEC championship matchup. 2 high-powered defenses going against each other. Gunnar Stockton's had a pretty solid year overall. But yeah, I think Ty Simpson overall had a little bit of a better year than Gunnar Stockton. Happy to break into anything more here. I don't think there's too many high-level takeaways from this. Obviously, Georgia won the first matchup 24-21. That was a little bit earlier in the year. I think DeBoer's team has improved throughout the year. I think we've seen that coming off their loss against FSU week 1. But I'm happy to kind of speak to anything more specifically about the statistics or metrics of this game.
Yeah. I think that this game, and if you remember, and the first matchup, the pass heavy attack of Alabama, and that's kind of continued throughout the year.
Yeah.
They've been able to pass the ball. Ty Simpson has been incredibly efficient, incredibly accurate. Has had a great senior year after kind of waiting in the wings his whole career. But they were not able to run the ball as well, and they still kind of have not been able to run the ball. They've done it better as of late, but against this Georgia defense, I think headline grade A+ run defense. They are not going to be able to run the ball. If they are, it'll be a surprise to everyone. It'll definitely be a surprise to us just looking at the advanced analytics. And so it's going to be kind of hinge on the shoulders of Ty Simpson, who, obviously it was a rivalry game last week, but the Auburn game, the Iron Bowl, you can kind of throw a lot of the stats out, a lot of the analytics out just because it is the Iron Bowl, but it is a kind of another data point that we look at. And that was a game that, frankly, Alabama was lucky to win.
Yeah.
Not because it was pure luck, but because Auburn really just turned the ball over so much.
Yeah.
And it was just probably exactly what Auburn has done all year. They play close games, even though they're 5-7, they play close games all year. And they just could not pull them out. So
yeah, and it was one of Ty Simpson's worst games too. I think that's notable to say as well. Coming into this next week, he only threw the ball for 122 yards. Yes, he had 3 touchdowns, but only had a 54% completion rate, which is his lowest basically all year if you take out the FSU game. So from a metric standpoint, not a great game. So I'm interested to see how he kind of bounces back, because the Georgia game was actually one of his better games this year. Had about around a 70% accuracy rating, 2 touchdowns, around 300 yards. So I'm interested to see kind of how he follows up last week's performance against Georgia.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of his, I guess, bread and butter, his MO has been protect the ball. He's protected the ball all year.
Yeah.
I know Georgia is going to try to force some turnovers, but this probably comes down to a turnover battle, and it probably is a pretty darn close game. I mean, what's the spread? We said 2.5 right now, so I think it probably comes down to a pretty close game. I do see Georgia pulling this out. The kind of interesting takeaway, and this is again it what if kind of scenario, but if Georgia does win this game, does the committee leave Alabama out for a second straight year?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of I know Texas was pushing the Ohio State. Oh, well, if we don't lose to Ohio State, we're in. This would if Alabama comes in, they would be saying, or it gets left out, they would be saying, if we don't play the conference championship game, we're in.
Yeah.
But I think this probably comes down to that Florida State loss.
Sure.
And if the committee is looking at kind of blind resumes and all of that, that's just the one kind of knock on Alabama this whole year. The one blemish on their resume is that Florida State loss that looks worse and worse each week. So I'm interested to see this game, how it turns out, and then all of the discourse surrounding the playoff. Whether it's the BYU Tech game, this game, kind of that's. I love Feast Week because it's great games. I love this upcoming week because great conference championship games, and then we get just debates that last forever.
Yeah.
For until next year, and then people still bring up 2023 Florida State, so they last forever. But if y'all want to debate us, please comment, like, subscribe. Feel free. We will respond to all the comments. We'll give you kind of the advanced analytics and what they say. And then, as always, go to INSZN.co to check out INSZN AI, all of the advanced college football analytics that we use on the show. You can play around with them yourself, and check us out on X, Instagram, TikTok. But become an INSZN insider today at INSZN.co. All right, next game, another great matchup. I mean, this is number 1 versus number 2, Big Ten championship game, Indiana against Ohio State. The spread on this game is 4 points, -4 in favor of Ohio State, and it's the over-under is 47.5. Neither of these teams have obviously played each other. They're both undefeated. And there's been some debate going on back and forth on who the better team is. The in-season AQR rankings has kind of gone back and forth between who has the better resume. Right now, Ohio State is in that number 1 slot, just like in the CFP, AP poll and all of that, and Indiana is number 2. So this is going to be a great game. I'm excited to watch it for Fernando Mendoza, potentially a Heisman case game for him, and then Julian Sain on the other side, Heisman case game for him. So take it away, Christian. Let us know what in-season AI is telling us and the advanced analytics.
Yeah, so the spread's been bouncing, 4.5 in favor of Ohio State. We actually have Ohio State winning this game 83% of the time, and we have a pretty high conviction on that as well. When we say high conviction, that means our, accuracy in actually predicting the outcome of this game is around 87% of the time. So from our standpoint, this is actually a pretty lopsided statistical matchup, which is a little bit surprising to me. I mean, we've seen Indiana all year, their big win against Oregon. They've been able to produce a lot of great offense this year, but they've also never faced a defense like they're going to see in Ohio State this weekend. So I think that's kind of where a lot of the first statistical kind of disconnect happens between this matchup. And typically when we see a win percentage of 83%, typically we're looking at something in the 14 to 17 point spread range. I don't think the outcome of this game will be 14 to 17 points, but that's just a little bit of additional context into what our numbers are saying. I'll quickly jump into the scouting report. Again, this is high-powered offense, high-powered defense. They're 1 and 2 respectively in SP plus as well. Indiana has the 5th ranked SP plus offense, Ohio State 6th ranked, and then on the defensive side, Indiana's 2, Ohio State's 1. So this is just kind of an all around great Big Ten matchup. I think that Julian Sainz had a great year. I think Fernando Mendoza's had a slightly less great year, but still a great year overall. So I think that's going to be kind of one of the hallmarks of this game is, who's going to have their Heisman moment this weekend. I don't have a lot of, additional insight on this game. I think Ohio State pulls this out just from the standpoint of Indiana's not seen a defense like this year. And I think when we actually talk about the difference between, their SP plus defenses being 1 and 2, I think there's a pretty wide gap there. If we just look at kind of the games they've played, the amount of points that have been scored against them, the amount of yards that have been scored against them, kind of going down that rabbit hole a little bit, I think this is going to be kind of a little bit of a jarring matchup. And look, Ohio State's been there before. And I think there's a lot of, credence to say, hey, Ohio State's been in the Big Ten championship for as long as I can remember over the past couple of years, and has obviously won that game. And so I think when you take that kind of perspective and saying this is Indiana's first time being there, first time ever having a perfect season, I think it kind of, do they continue this type of run that they've had, throughout, really coming from last year into this year, or does Ohio State kind of reset the narrative to say, hey, we're still the big dogs of the Big Ten. We've been here before. This is just another game for us. We're going to lock up our 1 seed in the playoffs, and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the kind of just when I was looking at the headline grades just now, as you were talking, the one thing that really sticks out, the difference is kind of Ohio State's C plus for pass blocking, which, as the season has gone on, they've been better and better on multiple things. But the kind of what I wanted to point out is just that C plus may not look as good as the other A's and A pluses that they have. But Julian saying that really has not affected him.
I mean, not at all.
You can pull up video clip after video clip of Julian saying just getting mauled, and still he's throwing dots and dimes throughout all over the stadium. So all over the field. So that's kind of the one thing that, like, just looking at it, I see. But it kind of a C plus 54th percentile pass block really has not, at least as of this point, affected Julian Zayin or their ability to throw the ball. Yeah, that is why they're the number one SP plus offense, or the number one pass offense. So
yeah, and I think that Julian Sayin's number 1 in a lot of our different metrics as well. He's number 1 in overall passing, number 1 in overall offense, number 1 at the blitz pass, which I think is kind of interesting that you bring up that Ohio State is a C in terms of pass blocking, but he's the best blitz passer in the country. So he's able to handle that pressure. He's also the most accurate quarterback in the country this year. If we look at his last, we'll take the last 5 games, 91%, 87%, 75%, 78%, 84% in terms of accuracy. So he's a highly accurate quarterback, is able to sit in the pocket even if it collapses around him and make the smart plays, does not turn over the ball, very much at all. I think his worst turnover game was versus, the Ohio Bobcats in week 3, where he had 2 interceptions. You take that one out and he has, a couple interceptions on the year. I just think overall he's an excellent quarterback. I think he'll be able to handle any type of defensive pressure that Indiana provides. And I think Ohio State, kind of rolls through this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly kind of what's going to happen. In terms of, even if you're able to get through that run block or that pass block that Ohio State doesn't do well, he has shown that he's the best blitz passer in the country. Yeah. And what's interesting is we've been on QB Spotlight with Stephen Hamner a little bit. So for all the QB Spotlight fans that are coming over, thank y'all. Follow, like, subscribe, comment, like, subscribe. But Stephen, a lot of times will point out that most of the time quarterbacks are either really good when they're pressured or really good when they have time in the pocket. But Julian Sayin is kind of this like enigma that's good at both. And he's phenomenal. He's had a phenomenal year. I fully kind of expect, I know Mendoza is the odds on favorite right now. I fully expect Julian Sand to go out there and have his Heisman moment game. Because just the season he's put together is probably the best season in the country. Best season of any player in the country. So I'm excited to watch this matchup, number one versus number two. Going to be a great matchup. So all college football fans, Ohio State, Indiana, Big Ten fans, comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you like about these videos, what you want to hear more about. If you have any questions about the analytics, the advanced analytics or anything like that, or in-season AI and how the machine learning model is doing, please comment, like, subscribe. Check us out on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And then, as always, become an in-season insider today. We'll even give a promo code for 25% off access. I'll post those in the description to all of these videos. But you can go over to inseason.co, use that promo code in the description to get 25% off access to all of this. We'll have college basketball and then thereafter college baseball data coming. And so we'll kind of be your one-stop shop for the big three in college sports. So the last video I want to go over to last game I want to go over to, the ACC championship. This is kind of the surprising one. We're all watching the Cal SMU game to see how that would turn out, because if SMU won that game, they would be in. But because they lost, somehow a 7-5 Duke is playing in this game. And then somehow further, the spread is only 4.5 points right now. So, and the over-under is 57.5. So want to talk a little bit about this game. If Virginia wins, kind of we talked about in the CFP recap, if Virginia wins, I think they're in as one of the top 5 conference champions that get automatic bids. If Duke wins, at least right now, they're not ranked in the top 25. JMU is, and then both Tulane and North Texas are. So we could have kind of the American and Sun Belt giving that 4th and 5th automatic bid. But want to see what the advanced analytics are telling us about this game and what in-season AI's the kind of insights it's giving into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now the spread is Virginia by 3.5. In-season AI is saying that Virginia wins this game 83% of the time. When you see a spread of around 83%, you're thinking 2-touchdown win, even more sometimes. So statistically, a very lopsided matchup, just based from our internal metrics. And the pick conviction on this is high. So what high means is we're accurate on this about 87% of the time. So I'm not saying that you should bet this game, but I will be betting this game in terms of Virginia covering the spread. I think that, Virginia's had a pretty solid year all year. Duke kind of stumbled their way into the ACC championship at 7-5. But overall, if you even just dig down into the metrics a little bit more, you kind of start to better understand the lopsidedness nature of this game. Sorry to Duke fans, but this is a pretty solid Virginia team and one of the best Virginia teams I've seen in a long time or in recent memory. But in terms of rankings, Duke is 29 offensively, Virginia's 46, but Duke defensively is 87, whereas Virginia's 29. And I think that's going to be kind of the hallmark of this game is Virginia doesn't have a great offense. Chandler Morris has been pretty solid this year. Jamari Taylor's been good on the running game. Terrell Harris has been good on the wide receiving end. I mean, they have a couple different punches and options they can take throughout this game in order to score and move the ball down the field. And I just don't know necessarily if Duke is able to stop that type of run, stop that type of pace. And so overall, I have Virginia winning this game. I'm happy to jump into any player level metrics or anything else you want to see, but just from the standpoint of what I'm looking at here, I think this is a pretty clear matchup in terms of who I think is going to win this game, and the nature behind the actual metrics and statistics of these two teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This is kind of like, although it's even closer, week, I guess 13 is the last time they met. So 2 weeks ago, there's been one game in between. But and BYU kind of similar to Texas Tech, they played in week 12.
Yeah.
So we kind of saw not that the outcome of that game is going to necessarily be the outcome of this game, but these teams just saw each other. It's not like the Alabama, Georgia that played early. This is there's been one game in between. and Virginia came out on top of that. Yeah, 34-17. So
yeah, and in that matchup, we also had the prediction is we Duke was a favorite by 5.5 points, and we actually had predicted the upset there, 60-40. And so now, when you think about how the model's progressed over even just the past 2-3 weeks, it's continued to refine itself and pointing more in the direction of Virginia. So I think that's another interesting thing to call out, is we predicted the upset 2 weeks ago, and then we're now predicting even more of a lopsided outcome. Having 83%, that what I said was about 2 touchdowns. Virginia won by 2 touchdowns. So I think that's kind of goes to show how the model itself has refined itself over time, but also how it learns from, past outcomes of one predicting the upset, but two now saying, yep, we've seen this before. We've seen how these two statistical matchups happen, and we see what the outcome of it is. And it now is saying this is a high conviction pick in favor of Virginia.
Yeah. So not to spoil anyone, but spoiler alert, this will probably be one of the high conviction picks that is on INSZN's X, TikTok, and Instagram. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said in a few of the other videos, or earlier in this video, the INSZN AI predicted, it's done it a few times, but we normally do 5 picks. We probably won't this week just because of there's not a whole lot of games. Yeah. But last week, all 5 were correct. It's done that a few times. The model, like Christian said, is getting better and better, to where last week, not only did it correctly predict all 5 winners and the outcome of the game, but all 5 winners also covered the spread. So in-season insiders that bet $100 5-leg parlay for those 5 high conviction picks to cover the spread ended up profiting about $2,400 off of that. So it's just kind of using that to show, one, how much better it's getting, just like Christian pointed out with the one predicting the upset in week 13, and now even more lopsided victory in Virginia's favor. But also it's refined itself so much that it's correctly predicting not just outcomes but spreads as well. So continue to check that out. Check out INSZN AI at INSZN.co, along with all of the advanced analytics. College basketball is coming soon. That should be up in the next few weeks, and then college baseball is thereafter. So INSZN really will be your one-stop shop for all things the big 3 college sports. So college football, basketball, and baseball. So we're also going to put in a promo code that allows you to get 25% off your access to INSZN right now. So that'll be in the description of this video. Anything else you want to talk about just as it relates to Duke, Virginia?
No, I mean, I think I'm happy to go into a little bit more, but I think we've seen this matchup before. We actually talked about it a couple weeks ago, I believe, as well. So I think that, I think the outcome of this game is pretty predictable. We've seen it happen 2 weeks ago, so I wouldn't expect anything different there. Yeah.
And then the other kind of matchup that we won't have a full video on and talk about, but Christian, can I just talk about briefly? James Madison, Troy. Yeah. It's a big spread. JMU really is the best team in the Sun Belt, by a pretty wide margin. But he can just show you quickly what INSZN AI is saying, and then what the advanced analytics are saying and all that. But go on and tell us what INSZN AI is saying.
Yeah, it's saying James Madison 98% chance of winning this game. Right now, the spread's 23.5. This is one of our lock pick convictions. I mean, I don't think there's too much more to say here. James Madison's a good program, top 25 program. Going against a solid Troy team, but they're 8-4 in the Sun Belt. I don't think there's much more to say about this game. James Madison's offense, has been solid this year. They're ranked 36th offensively and 26th defensively, going up against a Troy team that's 84 and 83 respectively. So I mean, I don't think there's much more to say about this game. It's a 23.5 point favorite in favor of James Madison. Wouldn't expect anything different there.
Yeah, I agree. I think JMU wins that game handily, and then they're watching the Duke Virginia game on Saturday night to root for the Blue Devils, and hopefully then they can get into the playoff. But that's, I think, their path to the playoff, just based on where the committee's ranking everyone right now. Mm-hmm. So thank you all for watching INSZN's College Football Show. Like I said at the beginning, I'm Braxton Wilkes, joined as always with co-founder Christian Berry. We are talking all things college football, and soon we will be talking all things college sports. So become an in-season insider today by going to inseason.co and using the promo code that is in the description of this video. And you can get 25% off access to that. Comment, like, subscribe on these videos. Let us know what you're thinking. Reach out to us if you have any questions. And until next time,